Donovan, it's so great to see you. You know, it's funny. We're going to promote Pass the Baton Canada. So it's a national in scope idea that we have here. Obviously, it's an Oakville scope. And that's the funniest part. You and I have been to Beijing and to Rio de Janeiro and all over the US and Europe. And here, two Oakvillians on Zoom, which is kind of funny. How are you?
Ron, you know what? I am good, and you know that you're my Oakville brother as well as media brother. And it's always good to see you. I hope everyone is well, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. Look at that! Look at
It
that!
doesn't show too well, but there you are in Copacabana Beach, Rio de Janeiro. That's 2016 Olympics.
Absolutely, that. Those were great times, and that was a nice day too.
Oh, yeah, it was an incredible Olympics, to tell you the truth. And they all have, in fact, you know, it's funny. I did an interview today in Lloydminster, a border city between Alberta, Saskatchewan, with a 35-year-old. He was the host, and he said he remembered the day, July 27, 1996. It's like for the younger Zoom viewers here, you remember Kawhi Leonard. If you're just a
Uh,
little bit older, you remember Sidney Crosby. But a moment like that, Donovan, you delivered. And we're going to go all through that. We're going to take you from Oakville grad to Olympic gold, big as it gets. Centenary of the Olympics, 1996, double gold. Phenomenal story. But maybe I'll just ask you out of the gate what you'd love to achieve here. As I said, we'll do Pass the Baton Canada in a little bit, but this is also for our community foundation in Little Oakville, and it's for youth, which is such a big deal for you. So tell the viewer that.
well, the number one thing I think that sometimes people often wonder what it is that we do, and we're not talking about sports. And so, Ron, again, we're two Oakville boys having a chat here, but we are indeed promoting a national campaign. The great thing about the Oakville Foundation is that for 3 decades now and running, I've been a great friend and partner. And Wendy and her staff and all the people that's been there, they are the highest level of professionalism, and these are the people that have helped the Donovan Bailey Fund and the Donovan Bailey Foundation, and kind of keep my good name and good graces with people, and for them to understand the immense philanthropy that's within me. So again, I always start with the village, Ron, as you know that. Oakville's been a phenomenal place for me. I've always had a home here. It's always been home, no matter of the 190 countries I've been to. I've always come back. So, it's always good to be in Oakville, be here, and to launch something that is national with these incredible people as my partner. It's incredible, and it also says a lot about the 3-decade relationship that we have had and continue to have.
You know, I often get, as you do, invites to go to career days, give advice to school children. And I feel a little bit tarnished because I feel like I was lucky. And I always look at your story, Donovan, and I think, well, maybe there might have been some luck. I can't find it. You were so driven. You had such expectations of yourself, of your friends. You surrounded yourself, just as you mentioned here, at the Community Foundation. So go back. Let's start maybe as a child in Jamaica, what it was like, and then when you came to Oakville and how your family sort of took control of the Caribbean Canadian community.
One of the things that I always talk about, I mean, we do talk about the village, and the village is actually indeed the village. I mean, the village consists of everybody. I mean, all of my dad's friends were my uncle. All of my dad's male friends were my uncle. All of my mom's female friends was my auntie. That, whether or not you're related by blood or not, and we were taught very young that there's an expectation. They're expecting something of you, so you damn sure better have some expectation of yourself. So also, there's a cliche saying that said, show me who you are if I see who your friends are, something like that. So the choices that I've always made, one, my family's always been supportive. The village has always been supportive. There's always been high expectations. And one of the great things is when you're in a great environment, you're absolutely going to find friends that are like-minded, and also, or those very same people who are driven, and those people who challenge you to be a better person. And so I think about that from when I was very young, from in Jamaica, moving to Oakville when I was 7, going back to Jamaica to go to school, moving back here permanently when I was 12 years old. There's always been that consistency of great support system and great friendships that I have outside of sport. for those people who are always going to ensure that you are going to challenge your own self to be a better self.
So the interesting thing for you, like I think of 11 as a really formative year in my life. That's when I
Yeah,
got a Hockey Night in Canada double album vinyl set for Christmas, and I was kind of on a path whether I knew it or not. And you're the
right,
same in that regard. You didn't know you'd be the world #1 sprinter. You just knew you were going to own a house and a car. You had goals. What
right.
year? When did it happen?
You know what? I mean, I think that, Ron, probably when I was 12, 13, it's actually 11, 12, 13, so probably right around your age. I mean, I think that, again, I was just surrounded by people who accomplish things. I mean, I'm from a family of entrepreneurs and landowners and professionals and people just work hard and saved and wanted to understand what ownership was and freedom and I guess to some degree power. So I understood that very young that what all I wanted to do was to be successful. It was never, I mean, at 11, 12, 13 years old, it wasn't about sports. I mean, hey, I wanted to be a professional basketball player. Let's not get that out of the way. I wanted to be, I felt that just because I love the sport and I have so much passion for it. But anything that I did, I was taught by my dad, by my mom, that I had to give it my all. And it was very, very important for me to understand that there is expectations and that the number one thing is that one, I had to work, two, I had to be disciplined, three, I had to be focused. But again, more importantly, overall, I had to have expectations of myself. So I am essentially my worst critic, even to this day.
I remember the gang from Filthy McNasty's was a neat little bistro we had here in Oakville. They loved you, and they were a big part of '96 in Atlanta and the World Championships in Gothenburg. But that all takes us back to Queen Elizabeth Park. So high school, what do you recall about high school?
You know what? High school, number one thing is, I mean, when my dad moved to Canada, one of the things that he thought that was where he was working in Milton, and he thought that I'm going to buy a house in the greatest community with the greatest school district where my family is going to thrive and be successful. So, I landed. First, he wanted me to go to Appleby College, and it was all boys. And I was coming from boarding school in Jamaica. He wanted me to go to Appleby, but it's all boys, and apparently the sports wasn't that good. My brother O'Neill was at Queen Elizabeth Park, and he was basically the king of the school. So for me, the road was already paved for me to show up and to kind of take over from where he left off. So QE Park to me was, if there is such a thing as utopia in high school, it is that. All of my friends, as you know, Ron, all of my friends from high school are still my friends today. We all go golf. Everyone's dying for golf season to start right now. We all go golfing. We all, this is what we do. We all are God, parent to each other's kids. I mean, this is what we do. And so QE Park to me was, high school is one of those times that not only do you understand, your social standings or your activism or your ability to speak up or your confidence or whatever, but it was a time that we as a collective could get together, play basketball, win championships, football. I mean, QE Park was such a small, tiny community, and we're still very close to this day. So high school to me in Oakville was probably one of my greatest experiences in life, actually. I mean, again, as you know, the boys and I are still really, 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 really close. Absolutely.
What an idea too, that there's a park, there's a trail in your name now runs by that old high school. Fantastic.
Yep.
So then you did go to Sheridan, pursue some business, and you play basketball. Where are you at that point in your life?
Well, a couple of things. After high school, there's a couple of track scholarships that was offered to me to go away to the States. And so my dad told me that I wasn't going to the States. So that's the end of that. I mean, we don't have, I talk to my kids now, and we actually collaborate and have conversations about what the future holds. My dad just said, I was 17, 18 years old. He said, nope, you're too young. You're not going away to America. Although you're responsible, you're not going away to America. So I thought I'd stay home for 1 year. Business, one of the things I pursued. Our family had a large real estate portfolio. It's something that I enjoyed doing. And so I thought going to Sheridan, taking business administration for me to understand what it is I need to do on that side was something I want to pursue. Also, Wayne Allison at Sheridan College recruited me heavily as a great athlete and probably the best athlete on the basketball team. So he thought, come to Sheridan, come try out for the basketball team. You'll be my project. I'll certainly work on you. You gotta, you gotta improve your ball handling skills. But for sure, I was the guy that's gonna create all the excitement in the game. I was the guy that's gonna dunk on everybody and all of those things. So Sheridan again Sheridan really was just an extension of Kiwi Park. It was a big high school. We had lots of fun. Oakville was the epicenter of all the fun in the world. And again, all of my friends were either going to school close by or they'd go away and we'd meet on the weekends. And so going to Sheridan, it was also one of those times that that was amazing, absolutely amazing. I mean, hence, I know you said that earlier, but hence why it is that when we started the Filthy McNasty franchise, which we built up to, I think it ended up being about 20 franchises. And a lot of people don't know that I was an owner. I was not a face. I was absolutely an owner, of all those. It was one of those things where, it was like Cheers. We started one franchise in Oakville every day. It wasn't not just every weekend, every single day. All of my friends from high school, and it wasn't just Kiwi Park, because my brother and I made a name for ourselves in sports in high school. All of our friends from all across Oakville would be so supportive of our restaurant that we had. It was in very short order. We had the ability to expand into, Burlington, Hamilton, Kitchener, Barrie, Toronto. So I mean, again, Oakville was the epicenter of fun and responsibility and great times.
I've never asked you, who was your basketball hero? Who was the guy you looked up to?
Well, okay, first of all, I met Michael Jordan. So I think that everyone emulates what Michael Jordan was or is. But for me, I mean, so Michael is still number one, but I loved watching Dominique Wilkins. I thought that if I was 6'9", that's how I'd want to play the game. And plus the other thing was every ball he got, he wanted to dunk it. And yes, me at 6'1", that's exactly how I felt.
It's funny, back in my day, especially, I'm older, of course, Dr. J, Julius Erving, they would go to the net, right? Jordan would leave 10 meters from the rim and dunk. Everything was at the net. And then, of course, Kawhi and Fred VanVleet and everyone else, Seth Curry, they're firing it from 3-point range. It's
Absolutely.
a different game. Yeah.
Well, Ron, that's the thing. That's the thing, Ron. I think that the game has changed so much from when you and I watched it. It was actually, it was like a track meet. I got to meet Dr. J, also amazing human being and also an athlete. He had the ability to shoot, run the court, a lot of dunks and all that. And now, yes, like you said, with Steph Curry and Fred and Kawhi Leonard, I mean, it's amazing to see how the game has changed. But again, I'm still a huge fan, and I guess I have to pivot now, as an old man, to make sure I can shoot a couple of jump shots myself. And I hope you do the same.
Well, it's a funny thing. I saw Vince Carter. I liken you to Kawhi Leonard. Your step at the 70-meter mark was otherworldly, right? That power to the ground. And if you, as you always said, if you had a guy at 70 meters in your sights, it's over.
Right.
So let's make that transition for the kids, because it's very important to understand you have this amazing career in athletics, and it's probably the furthest thing from your mind 4 or 5 years previous. Tell how it happened.
Well, you know what? I wanted to. I think that I was working in corporate Canada, and I really was just bored sitting in an office. That's really what. And it wasn't that I wasn't motivated, to be an investment banker or be a stockbroker. It wasn't that I wasn't motivated. It was just that I felt that I wasn't utilizing my time properly. And again, I addressed earlier about the village, and I always had talked to my dad about what it is I think I should do. I happened to watch Glenroy, and Glenroy competed against in high school. And him and Bruni were, I think it was an '88 Olympics. And I'm like, those guys made the national team, and I used to beat them in high school, or at least I used to compete, and I'd never trained. So my friend Hopeton Taylor and another friend, Andre Metivier, had just came back from America, and they were trying to make the team in 1991. So I thought I'd just go and watch them. That's all it was. I mean, I'm gonna skip work. I'm going to watch these guys try to make the team. And then, it was at Etobicoke Stadium. I went there. One was triple jumping, one was long jumping. 100-meter was coming up. I lied about being in a track club, borrowed some clothes and some shoes, got in the 100 meters, won the 100 meters from nowhere. So remember now, I was playing a lot of basketball. That's all I was playing, a ton of basketball, probably 7 days a week. So I wasn't some guy sitting on the couch. I certainly wasn't a fat guy like I am today. But so I got in and I ran and kind of that's how it started. I mean, the competitive juices, it immediately rushed back, and I'm like, okay, this is something I need to do. I'm in my early 20s. There is time to do this. I'd had the ability, obviously, I had some very good friends that were part of the national team and its infrastructure. And also, there's a coach named Erwin Turney that was coaching Andre and was coaching Houghton. So, I got to go and see kind of like the training that they were doing. So I wasn't really serious about it, but I understood very quickly that I knew I was blessed and had a gift from I was very young, from I was in Jamaica. However, in my early 20s, I realized I still had it and I could compete with our national team members and beat them with no training. So the switch turned immediately in 1991.
So for the youth, as a story of resilience, Donovan had one thing. You had that friendship network, so you could identify as a success with or without a gold medal at the Olympics. But you're fastest man in Canada in '94. We don't get you to the Commonwealth Games because Bruni Surin gets it on an injury exemption. That could have been a real key setback. I don't know if you used that as a chip on your shoulder or motivation. Did you?
Well, I'm going to tell you, Ron, it's probably the first time we ever talked about it, and I'm very glad you brought it up. First of all, I mean, yes, I used that. First of all, I wasn't the number one sprinter in Canada in 1994. I was the number one sprinter in the Commonwealth, and we are hosting the Commonwealth Games. And I went to our trials. I had a fever of 104. The team doctor at the time advised me. He goes, "You're the number one sprinter in the country, as well as the Commonwealth." You and Linford Christie had been battling on the Grand Prix circuit, or the Diamond League circuit, as it was known as then. We were battling all year leading into the Commonwealth Games. So when I was told that I couldn't compete because I had this fever, I'm like, okay, cool. I guess I'm going to be selected. Then the selection happened, and apparently Bruni got selected over me, who Bruni had not beat me all year. And frankly, I was crushing him in every single one. So yeah, I think I used it as a chip on my shoulder. I was not going to compete at the Commonwealth Games. I spoke to Molly Killingbeck, who was a coach at the time, and she said, "Hey, you know what, Donovan? This was supposed to be a coming out party. You're supposed to be at the Olympic at the Commonwealth Games. You're supposed to be at home. There was no doubt in my mind I was going to win and break the world record on Canadian soil. But it wasn't meant to be. And so I ran the relay. But I did say to my teammates at the time, Ron, I said to the guys, I'm like, here's the deal. I'm going to give you a 10 to 15 meter lead. That is exactly what I'm going to do. And if we don't win, we're fighting on the track. That's exactly what I said to him. So in 1994, that was my warning. That was my motivation speech to the fellas. But yeah, I use it as a chip for the next year, because what I did was I'm like, okay, I cannot believe that the selection committee didn't pick me, and I was not only the best in Canada, I was the best in the Commonwealth. So then I got back to work early in the fall of 1994. And that's why, 1995, I opened the season breaking the Canadian record and went on to be world champion and number one on the planet. So then I kind of felt I was not going to be denied then.
Yeah, please remember that, kids. I know I got told in radio in Red Deer, you're not cut out for this, Ron. And you have to have those moments of pushing through when someone else doubts you or doesn't give you the opportunity. It happens to us all. And Donovan, there's a great saying Bob Marley has, you never know how strong you are until strong is your only choice.
Right.
And for you, it happens at the Olympics. And I'll just do one Olympic question because we do want to give the kids an opportunity in the event we're doing in Oakville. And then we'll get
Right.
to Pass the Baton Canada. So the Olympics, this is honestly the most, I've been lucky enough to be to a lot of things. I've
Right.
never seen anything quite like the Atlanta Olympic Games. It's the 100th anniversary. It's Coca-Cola. It's the United States. It is as big as it gets. And the defending champion bows out, defaulting through a couple of false starts. It's like 10 minutes to get the race up and running. There's another false start, takes one on Atto Bolden. And Donovan Bailey of Oakville, Ontario, and Jamaica and Canada wins this gold medal. I mean, just explain your whole mindset, your approach to taking down the world in record time.
Well, the number one thing, and I'm very happy that you brought that up, Ron. I think that when the kids watch the race, they have to understand that Linford had to attempt to get a great start. Just 3 weeks before the Olympic finals, we had a race in France, and he had an amazing start. And I caught him at the 98-meter mark and just passed him. So I know, and so we've been battling all year. So I knew that Linford and Frankie and Otto, for that matter, felt that they had to get a good start on me because my top end speed, the only person that's ever gone as fast as me or faster, is the great Usain Bolt. So there was no fear for me in Atlanta. I knew I was the best. I knew that I just had to stay calm. And by the way, and I think that a lot of kids don't understand this, because of what happened in Atlanta with the immense delay with the false starts, this is the reason, kids, why that race, my race in Atlanta, is the reason why we have the new starting rules today, the ones that use today. But yeah, I was very ready, Ron. I mean, I was there, prepared, understood what I need to do, very motivated, and also knew that I just had to give myself an opportunity. I was very relaxed going through the rounds, and essentially for me, even although I was the sixth person out of the blocks, which means I probably had the worst start in the history of the Olympic Games, I had to just stay relaxed, and go through what it is that I know how to, and go through the transitions, and understood that when I stood up, I would be passing every single person. So in doing that, it produced the world record that became the fastest human being that existed on this planet. And what can I say? It's one of those incredible moments that I got to share with the amazing sporting fans around the globe, but especially the ones here in Canada.
Yeah, again, just so you know, Donovan's top end speed was just shy of 45 kilometers per hour. It was otherworldly. His and it was the worst start just about in Olympic history. Now,
Absolutely.
in the previous 3 false starts, you had great starts, but
Yes,
maybe you're just exhausted. Listen, we could go on. I tell everybody, that was an Olympics with Muhammad Ali, lit the cauldron.
yes.
Everything about it was magic.
Got to meet him then. Yes.
Yeah, amazing.
Okay.
And then you led the relay. So that's how we'll do this. The Pass the Baton Canada, Mike Murray was our relay coach, and we had Robert Esme from Sudbury. We had Glenroy Gilbert from Ottawa. We had obviously Bruni Surin from Montreal, and we had Oakville's Donovan Bailey as our anchor. And there's the whole country. And Carlton Chambers, of course, was Toronto. Right. He had run the first 2 races, correct, before the final itself. And they just felt for the start's sake, maybe Robert Esme would be a better start. Is that what I recall?
Yeah, well, something like that. Well, Carlton was actually injured, and he had a very long season at Clemson, but he was faster than Robert. But I mean, Robert was itching to come in there, and he came in and did a decent job.
So, Pass the Baton Canada. How can folks do it, and what's it about?
Well, the number one thing, Ron, I mean, you touched on it earlier. I mean, there's you coming from Red Deer, and a lot of people doubting your own personal dreams and goals about you becoming one of the very best in the history of media. It's very much the same way with me and with track and field. And what I'm thinking is Pass the Baton really is one, celebrating Canada for being successful, celebrating Canada by actually doing something physical. But also the number one thing is all the wisdom and education and experiences that we have learned as Canadians. It really is time for us to pass it to the next generation. So this is very important for me, and probably for you and all, successful Canadians in any walk of life to understand that we have to equip our future leaders with all the knowledge that we have. So from July 27th to August 3rd, we're going to have this year we're going to have virtual events, 25K, 5K, 1K, 4x1 relay. Listen, run 100 meters if you want, film it and send it to us. But I want everyone to go to passthebatoncanada.com and sign up to a virtual event, especially in light of what's going on with the pandemic right now. I'm encouraging everyone to get outside, get some vitamin D, and get some exercise while supporting our next generation. So I'm encouraging every single person, Pass the Baton Canada, sign up to a virtual event. This is a celebration of celebrations. It is the 25th anniversary of Atlanta, and we hope we're celebrating Atlanta as well as celebrating something good happening in Tokyo also.
Absolutely. Andre DeGrasse, you want to know, kids, about Andre, you ask Donovan Bailey right here. You've got the world and Olympic champion at your beck and call. Donovan, thank you for this, and I'll hand it over to Haley Francis for a Q&A with the kids. Haley.
Thank you, Ron.